the overseas sport. I mean, they excel, right? So you see a lot of that. What we don't do is get an identity with many features in our culture and our life of which black people do play. I love jazz, so you know that black people dominate jazz, and they play our music. We celebrate it. And in a way, I think what's coming out from here is that we want our pride. We don't want to be reminded totally about pain, but we don't forget it either. So what I think is coming from here, from I get from it, something we can positively do. In our schools, we should teach black history. We should do. When I went to the Sudan in 1970, right, I went there and I met them. There was a civil war going on, and they said to me in the press conference, I was young at about 28, 29, I was a member of Parliament Hall, and they said to me, what did you know about Sudan before you came here? I said, I didn't know anything. They said, but there was one fact I knew. He said, what was that? That it was your terrible fuzzy wussies that killed our General Gordon. That's all they taught in our school. It was empire history, it was white history. And in that sense, we still get taught some of that, but not about the culture of black history and so on. Now, I think the three communities, one positive idea I take from that, we should look at what we do in our schools and just remind us what the contribution of black culture and black people has been. Remind them, yes, about the pain. Our museums do. There's one in Hull, there's one here. We have Mandela Squares, we have streets to commemorate people, individuals. But it's how you get a community to recognise, hey, this did go on. Not as if to say, I feel guilty because my parents did that time, as we can all say, looking back to our history. But we need to recognise that. So the history, the education is one that we know. Yes, the history with the museum, fine, you have it here, we have it. It shouldn't be solely about that. But I'm back to the point I started with at the end of the day. How do you commemorate something? It's interesting, you can go to a centre or an area and say, why can't we celebrate black history? October, I think, is when we have a particular point where we identify with that. And in fact, if you look at history now slowly coming, you wouldn't have thought that black people, there was a black Air Force squadron in the American Air Force in the war. There were squadrons that were there. There were regiments there, just black. No contribution or consideration of what they did. So somehow we have to break through this attitude and culture. That was interesting what you said about Jesus Christ. He wasn't white. We made him white. They say to white people, I'm not a Christian myself, so you know. They captured that part of culture, but we shouldn't feed into it. Now, when I entered this point about Black Caribbean radio, there was one in Birmingham which did lead to some problems about this, and the sensitivities in relation. You had a bit of a problem here as well, as I understand, reading what was happening in Prescot. But if you listen to black music and you listen to black, it's a different culture, it's an identity, and there's many more white people listen to your black radio about it, because they like the music better than what we've already got. But there's that pride somehow to come back. So in our schools we can do something. But I'm back to my original point. What is it can we put up that somehow celebrates that and reminds people, particularly white people, about the history of contribution of black people? And I don't know whether you do it by statue. Mandela's recognised that.
As it is TV.
That was interesting what you said about Jesus Christ. He wasn't white. We made him white. That was interesting what you said about Jesus Christ. He wasn't white. We made him white. That was interesting what you said about Jesus Christ. He wasn't white. We made him white.
As it is TV.